Hello everybody, Max of Pilots and Prop Wash here, and today I thought we'd talk about the accidental captain. Now, most young pilots, or most pilots who get hired into an airline, start off as a first officer in the right seat, what the military calls a co-pilot. And that's a great opportunity for them to learn from an experienced captain who's in the left seat. Now, sometimes, particularly upstart airlines, will hire street captains that already have experience, but the general progression is to get hired as a first officer, do usually a few years in the right seat of an experienced captain, and then upgrade yourself. And where it is the goal of many first officers, in fact, dare I say most of them, to be a captain, some guys are actually very happy in the right seat. They're like, you know what? This is pretty good. We get seniority fast. We get a good lifestyle. The money's okay. And they're sometimes willing to accept up to a 6-digit salary reduction to stay in the right seat for quality of life. A lot of them are young parents, need time at home with the kids, that sort of thing. So you have a lot of pilots out there that are really happy to stay in the right seat. Sometimes, and this happened to someone very close to me just recently, you have equipment changes that cause a massive reshuffling and a fleet type might be retired. Captain on one of the smaller aircraft may now have to go to be captain on one of the larger aircraft, but will lose most of their seniority. So they elect to go to the right seat to maintain seniority and quality of life over being back in the left seat. Their attitude is the quality of life is worth it. Whether they have kids at home or perhaps they're nearing retirement, they don't want to go back to flying red eyes. Everyone's got their own process, and they have to make their decisions based on what's important to them. You've probably often heard about how seniority determines almost everything with a pilot's career, and there's a lot of truth in that. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the bidding process. You see, pilots actually submit what are called bids, and they're basically requests for what they would like to do, what base they would like to be at, what aircraft they want to fly, what routes they want to fly, and of course, what seat they want to be in. This particular individual had gone from a position as a relatively senior captain on a smaller plane to an extremely senior first officer on the larger plane. And he discovered that life was good. As his co-workers would tease him, at his level of seniority, he didn't bid trips, he just picked them. In the midst of all of his retraining and everything, he had forgotten one little thing. A long time before, he had put in a bid to be a captain on that same airplane should he be above a certain seniority level. And that was still in the heartless, mindless computer that simply does what it's told, didn't know that he was happy in the right seat being super senior because it had no way to know that. The pilot knew his wishes, but he forgot to tell the computer. He never took out the old bid. Now, I know a lot of pilots that this has happened to. This just happens to be the most recent one. They put a bid into the system when they're a young first officer, and, I want to be a captain as quick as I can, and I'll take any basing, and they forget about it. Then they have kids or something, they need the time at home, they manipulate their schedule so that they can spend more time with family, or whatever their particular situation might be. And then, lo and behold, one day, they get awarded captain. I didn't bid that. Oh, but you did. And the computer never forgets. Some airlines, if you tell them, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to take out my old bid. I really don't want this upgrade to captain, or sometimes it's a domicile change or something like that. The airline, if it can, may accommodate you and rescind the bid and let you pull it out. But a lot of them are like, sorry, you're in the training pipeline. We need captains out online. You bid it, you bought it. And the next thing you know, like it or not, you're off to training. And even though they will be making a higher hourly rate, some of the senior first officers were making so much money picking up flying on days off or bidding voluntary duty and things like that, that it can actually result not only in a tougher schedule, but the same or even less money than they were making as a first officer, depending, of course, on their situation. The point I'm driving at is, when you get hired, being a first officer isn't all just looking cool in sunglasses and keeping the captain out of trouble. It's a good gig. A lot of guys really dig it. They don't want to change it. But you got to make sure that if at any time in your career you had put in a captain bid, that you remember to take it out if you don't want that upgrade. I've seen a lot of guys try to push their training dates back or something like that because they didn't want the bid, but there is nothing as funny and priceless, provided you're not the person, than seeing the look on a first officer's face when they find out they've been awarded captain. A lot of times, if it's what they wanted, it's like getting a wonderful Christmas present. They're jumping for joy. But if it's something they weren't ready for or weren't expecting or interferes with their plans and they just forgot they had that old bid in the system, oh, it can get downright humorous. Well, provided it's not you that it's happening to. So for all the first officers out there, in fact, for airline pilots in general, times change. And if the situation has gotten to the point that there's something in there that you don't want, you better make sure it's taken out. Because remember, once you bid it, you bought it. You're flying it. So enjoy the training, guys, and the rough schedule of being a junior captain. Keep an eye on that bid so you don't become the accidental captain. Ah, back to red eyes.